The latest expose from Project Veritas and James O'Keefe may be one of their most important yet. Now, I will say, honorable mention to the Amy Robach video that helped expose the media cover-up of the Epstein scandal. That may be their most important one. But this is also very, very important. James O'Keefe has an executive from the FDA on camera saying that they want yearly COVID shots, that these pharmaceutical companies basically pay the FDA for expedited approval, and that mandating vaccines is a guaranteed revenue stream. Shocking statements. Many of us assumed, but now confirmed by an employee at the FDA. The FDA responded saying this man does not have anything to do with these vaccines and his views don't represent ours. I'm paraphrasing. I'll show you the full quote just to make sure I get the context correctly on this one. So James O'Keefe calls a guy on the phone, this guy from the FDA, who issues a contradictory statement to what the FDA had claimed, saying, quote, "I'm a manager in the office that helps oversee the approval of the COVID vaccines for emergency approval." Now, James pushes back and says, you can give me the truth or the company line. Here's where it gets crazy. First, obviously, I got to go through the context on this one, showing you exactly what's going on with the release of this video. Executive level FDA official recorded on hidden camera saying annual COVID shots expected, as well as vaccines for children expected to be approved. The things he says are shocking, but it's not just about those things. It's about the FDA apparently not reaching out to this guy and telling him what was going on, issuing a statement without his knowledge, downplaying and trying to make it seem like this guy doesn't work in a privileged role or make it seem like he doesn't have privy to access. And then he comes out and basically contradicts them. They are being thrown for a loop. And I got to say, if I was going to make an assumption on which of these stories is true, his initial the undercover video showing him saying these things or his statement now, I'm going to go with undercover. Here's the story. This guy is apparently on a date. He doesn't realize his date is a journalist with Project Veritas. The journalist starts asking some questions about what's going on, and he freely answers them. He tries changing his story on the phone with James O'Keefe. So James posts the logical question. Why, if what you're saying now is that the things you've said on that date are not true, did you lie in public to this person? And if so, why? They got this guy in a sticky situation. James encourages this guy to be a whistleblower. But the crazy thing about this is, when you've got this guy on a date at a restaurant, and he's telling this date secrets, disgusting, corruption, I think that's more likely to be true. He thinks he's in a safe place. He thinks he can say these things because there will be no repercussion against him. Publicly, he's scared they will come after him. And they, I mean like authorities, pharmaceutical companies, powerful interests who don't want to see financial damage because of what this guy is exposing. Let's read this story. James O'Keefe has given an update on Hannity. And I just want to say before we do, shout out to James O'Keefe and Project Veritas on a tremendous work once again. A lot of this stuff I can say we assume, but assumptions are very difficult. When we think there's corruption with revolving door politics, basically, guy works at the FDA, then he gets a job at the pharmaceutical company, guy works at the pharmaceutical company, goes and gets a job at the FDA. They're all friends. We assume these things. We say, hey, conflict of interest. With James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, they've got him saying it now out in the open. This guy thought he was in private and he can say, here's how we really do it. And then, turns out it was an undercover journalist and everything you said is now publicly available. And what are you going to do about it? This is amazing because this guy doesn't know how to respond. From KATV.com, Project Veritas released a video on Tuesday, which allegedly shows an executive-level Food and Drug Administration official admitting the Biden administration has plans to require yearly COVID shots just like the flu shot. Now hold on there a minute. Let's make sure we're being reasonable. Are they saying that you'll go to Walgreens and they'll have COVID shots once a year you can choose to get? I don't care about that. That to me is kind of interesting, but not at all worrying. I'll tell you what is worrying about it. The vaccine mandates. If vaccine mandates stay in place, and for many places they will, if they remove the government mandates but then tell private businesses to do it, then you're going to have a very serious problem because they'll say, you got to get your yearly booster. Recently went snowboarding on a mountain, and the mountain had a vaccine requirement. Isn't that crazy? But you know what was funny is nobody stopped and asked you and nobody cared. You were able to walk in and go about your business, and it wasn't an issue. This is still worrying because they put the signs up. Everybody says, no big deal. Who cares? They're not actually enforcing it anyway. One day they might start. One day they might lightly be like, hey, just so you know, next week you got to have your card with you. And then people will go, oh, they do it slowly. It's the story of eBay that I told before. That the website used to be yellow. And then one day they changed the graphics. They made it white. And everyone complained, oh, we don't like this new color. So what did they do? They changed it back because people were complaining. And then every day they slowly increased the brightness until a year goes by and the website is white and no one realized the gradual change had happened. This is how they do it. They know that if they come out and smack you in the face with some big change, you're going to revolt. But if you implement it slowly, roll out a mask mandate, whatever, and then a vaccine requirement, where do you go next? Social credit systems. Let's read. Quote, you'll have to get an annual shot. Christopher Cole, an executive officer for the FDA's Medical Countermeasures Initiative, said on hidden camera by Project Veritas. Biden wants to inoculate as many people as possible. Well, I mean, that's true. We know that, right? I mean, it hasn't been formally announced yet because they don't want to, rile everyone up. That's exactly what I'm saying. Cole said in the video, his managerial role at the FDA's MCMI involves overseeing vaccines, vaccine approvals, and devices for vaccines, and noted his office clears all the emergency approvals for such countermeasures. The FDA's MCMI is an FDA-wide initiative to coordinate medical countermeasure development, preparedness, and response, according to the agency's website. FDA ensures that medical countermeasures, including drugs, vaccines, and diagnostic tests, to counter these threats are safe, effective, and secure. However, an FDA press officer told the National Desk, quote, the person purportedly in the video does not work on vaccine matters and does not represent the views of the FDA. Cole also made the comments in the video regarding potential financial incentives for the federal government associated with the approval of COVID vaccines. Quote, there's almost $1 billion a year going into FDA's budget from the people we regulate, Cole says in the Project Veritas video. The drug companies, the food companies, the vaccine companies, they pay us hundreds of millions of dollars a year to hire and keep the reviewers to approve their products. And there it is. Exposed for the world to see. If they can get every person required at an annual vaccine, that is a recurring return of money going into their company, Cole added in reference to pharmaceutical manufacturers. Cole also expresses concern over the FDA's process to approve COVID-19 vaccines for young children between 6 months of age and 4 years. I don't completely agree with the FDA's process, he said. All the tests aren't there, he added. I agree with the thing that it is important to inoculate them, but you can't provide the parents as much assurity as you normally want to. Hoping to have the COVID vaccine for toddlers by the end of the month, according to the Washington Post, the FDA was scheduled to meet this week to discuss its approval, but the agency unexpectedly canceled the meeting, citing the need to allow more time to analyze additional findings from vaccine manufacturer Pfizer's ongoing clinical trial. Another video, a part 2, is expected to be released from Veritas with additional comments from Cole. Now look, as I always say, if you have any concerns or questions about any medical procedures or vaccination, very, very simple thing you do is you go and you talk to a doctor. It's that simple. Many of you may have noticed I posted the other day that I had to take the day off because I was feeling ill, and it wasn't like a normal kind of illness. And what I mean by that was it wasn't like I had a cold or something. I felt like a general tiredness, and I felt a little loopy, and it's actually really, really simple. I was dehydrated. Now, look. Here's the thing. I drink water. Drink a lot of it. I drink a good amount. And I didn't know that even drinking all of that, I was still dehydrated. I felt everything was fine. And it turned out to have been that simple. But I called the doctor, went in for a checkup, and they said, we think you're dehydrated, so we're going to give you some fluids, and then we want you to, drink more. And I said, wow, Turns out working nonstop all day, every day. Here's what I do. I work, basically, I would say it's fair to say 12 to 16 hours a day, because there's a period in between from like 4 to 6 p.m. where I'm eating or exercising. But work in terms of the business sense, let's put that aside and say work in terms of physical stress. Yeah, I work from like 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, what am I doing? I went up on a mountain and I did strenuous activity. So without taking any breaks, that happened, Turns out I was loopy and dehydrated, and I got to take better care of myself. So that's the point, man. You can't know for sure. You can think you're doing everything right. You can think you have all the answers, and sometimes you go to a medical expert for advice. That's what I did. This is what's shocking and worrying to me, and I'm sure many of you. When behind the scenes, when in private, people from the FDA are coming out and saying these things. Yeah, they basically pay us hundreds of millions a year to approve their products. You're like, yo, that's a very serious conflict of interest. When people come out and say, why is it that some drugs are not getting approved for certain uses and others are, makes you wonder, doesn't it? Certainly. And then what happens is you'll have a doctor who says, look, here's what the FDA has said. Here's what the CDC has said. We have legitimate questions about this stuff. Now, of course, I advocate going to a doctor. Why? Not every doctor has the same opinion. Okay, you need to make sure you're finding a good, smart, well-researched doctor who can talk about what's right for you and perhaps understands your concerns and can answer those questions. If you go to a doctor and you're like, you see this thing from Veritas, and they say no, maybe you find a different doctor. Maybe you say, let me get a second opinion because I want to find someone who can tell me what this means. Find an expert. Smartest thing you can do. Well, check this out. We got an update here. James O'Keefe appeared on Hannity. The Daily Mail reports. These are serious ethical issues. James O'Keefe demands answers after FDA executive officer is caught on hidden camera admitting Biden will force an annual COVID shot that would be a recurring fountain of revenue for drug firms. Quote, these are serious ethical issues, James O'Keefe said. When you have the government getting money from the people they're supposed to be regulating, and you have an executive officer in that government saying he did not know he is being recorded, that influences how they approved products, the political activist said. I love this part. Daily Mail says, the far-right activist group. What does that mean? We're working on this fact-checking organization, Truth in Media. And we're waiting for paperwork and filing. And we're going to be employing several journalists to go through these articles. But I would tell you this. One of our plans is to take a random sampling of articles from various news organizations and then check them against the SPJ Code of Ethics. I think it's Society for Professional Journalism, as well as perhaps the Associated Press and Reuters. And then what we'll do is, if an article has a violation of ethics, they get a strike. We'll sample 100 articles. We'll say, 67 out of 100 were approved as ethical journalism according to the SPJ. And then we'll link to the article so you can see it yourself. Then we'll create a browser extension that will show you. This is what we've been working on for a long time. And to all the naysayers, I said I was never going to do it because a couple of years ago, I was like, here's the plan, man. We're building this up. It takes time. It really is hard to do everything all at once. But when they say Veritas is a far-right activist group, why, me oh my, that's an opinion statement. And thus this article would get a strike, not ethical journalism. You'd then link to it. We'd highlight that and say, including in an article that Project Veritas is a far-right activist group is an opinion statement and does not define the group's activities. All you can really define of Project Veritas is they are a media outlet that produces undercover video reports. Now, you can say journalism is a fact statement. You can say Project Veritas is a journalism organization that primarily focuses on undercover reporting. That's it. Because those are facts. It's what they do. Now, whether or not you think they're activists, whether or not you're concerned about their bias, I would include those. I would say, well, Project Veritas has been accused and smeared by organizations that view them as politically biased. Project Veritas has targeted, reporting has targeted large corporate organizations as well as political groups. And they also have another, you break down who they are and what they do and try to explain it to the best of your abilities without saying they're far-right activists. Quote, the vaccine, it wanes. Your ability to fight it wanes. So the 3 will bolster your system, and then there will be an annual, just like the flu shot. The FDA dismissed the report saying cold does not work in the vaccine-related matters, and that his views don't represent those of the agency. Now, here's where it gets funny. In the video I started with, Project Veritas, James O'Keefe gets this guy on the phone, and he says, quote, I am a manager in the office that helps oversee the approval of the COVID vaccines for emergency approval. Uh-oh. This is the game. And I'm so glad that Veritas has exposed it. When there's like an oil spill, you know exactly what the company is going to say. They're going to spew word vomit. Spare us your lies. We know you're all lying to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. We know they know we know they're lying. It's the game, isn't it? What is the point of a statement being made by a corporation when you know they are lying? Now, I'll tell you this. Very easily, they could have lied in a way that would be more believable. And that's what I don't understand about this. Remember Hillary Clinton when she was campaigning and she put on the Southern accent, thinking like the internet didn't exist and people wouldn't realize she was faking an accent? Yeah, we know you're faking it. We know you're not honest people. They could have at least just said something like, in this video, we believe his statements were hyperbolic or facetious. I'd say this. If it was me at the FDA, I'd say, a recent video was released from Project Veritas that shows one of our employees trying to impress a woman on a date by hamming it up and playing it up when the response to what he said is actually quite simple. Joe Biden thinks we will need, the FDA and many here do believe that you will need an annual shot for COVID, the same as you would for the flu. That's been publicly stated several times, though we're not completely convinced that will be the case. It seems like it will be. As for the statements about pharmaceutical companies paying, fees and everything, that's all true. You can make your assumptions about it as you see fit. They could have at least tried, right? They could have said, James O'Keefe is hamming things up and it's a little out of context, but maybe making it seem more nefarious than it really is. We'd love to have a conversation. They don't do that. They don't even try. Now, to be honest, I think James is correct. I think they're full of garbage. They're full of trash. Like they're full of ish, and they're just lying to people, and they're being caught. Maybe the reality is they're caught with their pants down. They have no answer. Well, I tell you this, FDA, there's one piece of advice I can give you. Shut up. PR 101. Don't issue any statements. You only dug yourself into a deeper hole now because now this guy, Christopher Cole, is on the record contradicting the official statement from the FDA. Oh, you'll love to see it. Let me tell you what's really going on. Dr. Anthony Fauci says CDC monitoring necessity for fourth COVID shot. Really? Dr. Anthony Fauci confirmed this week that the CDC is actively monitoring the necessity for additional booster shots to fight COVID-19. We know what this guy is saying is most likely true. He's an official with the FDA. He said it. Take that one to the bank. Because now Fauci's coming out and saying there's going to be additional shots. Oh, we know Fauci. No need to tell us. Thanks to the good reporting of Project Veritas, we were well aware of this before it was actually out in the media. TimCast.com reports Director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, Anthony Fauci, on Wednesday, explained that additional injections could be required to adequately protect individuals from future strains of the contagion. The potential future requirement for an additional boost of a fourth shot for mRNA or a third shot for J&J is being carefully monitored in real time. And recommendations, if needed, will be updated according to the data as it evolves, Fauci said. A single booster shot continues to provide high levels of protection against severe disease caused by Omicron. This should not be confused with the fact that for many immunocompromised people already, a second booster shot, namely a fourth dose of mRNA, is recommended because of what we know about their poor response to the initial regimen. I don't care about what Anthony Fauci has to say. I care about what you talk to your doctor about. I've gone to a doctor. They've given me specific advice and specific instructions and treatments as it pertains to me having COVID several months ago. And it was not the same thing that Dr. Fauci is telling people or these celebrities are saying. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details on my personal medical history because for the most part, it's no one's business. Suffice to say, I talked to a doctor. They said, based on your medical history, here's the advice we give you. I'll be honest, they said, you are a healthy, strapping young lad. You exercise regularly. Let me just tell you this. My resting heart rate, it's like 50 BPM. Actually, I'll tell you this. When I went to the hospital, I went to the hospital the other day because I was feeling messed up, to put it mildly. I had gotten pretty dehydrated. Probably has to do with working a whole lot. As you know, I've been doing low carb. I've been doing, I say keto, but it's mostly just like higher protein, more fat, less carbs. It's not full blown keto. You combine that, I was totally fine for several months with a high altitude, with low fluid consumption. I was snowboarding on a mountain for several hours. I hadn't drinking any water, strenuous activity, and I did have some wine afterwards. And that is a concoction for dehydration. And I thought that I wasn't dehydrated, but I was. And so for me, I'm kind of like, I don't understand. Like I drank a bunch of water and it just made me feel bad. And they basically said, drinking water is it, right? Take some vitamins, drink some water, but you need to just kind of zone out, nap it out, and rest for a day. And I was like, oh. Well, they put me on this monitor. And sure enough, my heart rate actually was around like 47 BPM. Now, I know a lot of people are like bradycardia or whatever it's called. The alarm went off. That's actually relatively normal for me. I know I'm totally bragging right now about my low heart rate, but that was, the nurse came in and she was like, wow, that's low. Are you active? And I was like, yeah, I actually skate almost every single day. Not almost every day because you don't want to, overdo it. And that's another contributing factor to the dehydration is that I do a lot of strenuous activity. And so, but she was like, oh, okay. So humble brag. But when I go to a doctor and, there was a commercial I watched the other day and it was like, do you have bradycardia, low heart rate? Like that could make you dizzy and lightheaded. You need treatment for that. If you're not exercising all the time and doing physical activity and, going on the half pipe or snowboarding or whatever it is, you might have a heart rate around 70 BPM. And that's normal. 60 to 100 is considered normal for a lot of people. For me, my resting heart rate is like, on average, I think it's like 53 or so. Because I have the Whoop. You may have noticed I wear it. And it tracks all that stuff. I exercise regularly. The Whoop's been fantastic. I know it like sells your data as people are complaining about. But what the reason I bring this up is not necessarily just to like humble brag, like I'm in shape. I do encourage everybody to get in shape. I am proud that I've worked this hard and gotten into better shape. The point is, when I go to a doctor and I tell my doctor my resting heart rate hit 47 consistently one night, his response to me is totally fine. You exercise regularly. Some marathon athletes, like marathon runners, can get their BPM down to the 30s. No joke. That's crazy. 30 beats per minute. But if you go on like general Google searching or watching TV commercials, they'll say something like, that's bradycardia and that's really bad. Imagine if I just took the assessment of a TV doctor who was like, if you have a low heart rate in the 40s, you need medication. And then I went to Walgreens, started buying up drugs. That'd be really, really bad for me. This is the point. This is why I cannot stand the mandates for all. Your medication doesn't apply to everybody. Now, I get it. The average person probably doesn't have a heart rate as low as the average athlete does. But why are you mandating for athletes, for healthy individuals, something they probably don't need? Or maybe they do. I don't know. They should talk to a doctor about it. I'll tell you why. In my opinion, money. And thank you, Veritas, for getting it all out there on the record. Money, 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 recurring stream of revenue for the big fat pharmaceutical companies. Look, I said it before, I'll say it again. I think mRNA technology is incredible. Really, if you look at it. People are like, how were they able to get a vaccine done so fast with mRNA? And I'm like, because it's mRNA. It's a new kind of vaccine. I used to watch these science videos where they were talking about ways to create immunity and to fight infection. And there were a bunch of innovations in this and revelations in science. And so we're not going to just keep using the same kind of tech. When they're like, how come it takes 20, 30 years for these vaccines? And it's like, well, those are different kinds of vaccines. We've been working on mRNA for a long time. We said, we'll try this one out. Seems to have been moderately effective. It wanes, and now they want you to get a booster shot, but that's up to you if you want to get that. Some people don't. Personally, I don't get the flu shot. Whatever. The point is, you can think whatever you want about the medicine and whatever, but just go to an expert. When they go out on TV, and they say, go do this, don't listen. You go to a doctor. YouTube is like, if you discourage people from going to a doctor, you know what, man? When they encourage you to go into a parking lot to get an injection in your arm, I'm like, how is that allowed on these platforms? That's right. We need to stop acting like the game is fair. It's not fair. The establishment, the left, they can break any and every rule because they are better men. And you're all just the dumb working class morons who should do what you're told. Excuse me. I recommend watching the show Peacemaker. Because I got to tell you, I just watched the finale. Wow. I saw a lot of people posting on social media about the finale of Peacemaker. And let me just say, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there's one key moment right at the end where it's like, the bad guys are basically like, we're the establishment Democrats who know what's better for you. And I was just like, wow. That's their asset. Like the villain, to put it mildly, it appears the villain in Peacemaker is like the Dr. Fauci types, the Trudeau types. Seriously, watch. It's 8 episodes. A good show, by the way. John Cena absolutely killed it. And literally in the show, his character, quite brutal. But no, it was an amazing show. Check it out. These people are the villains. They think they're better than you. They can make decisions for you. They can't because everybody is different, okay? So I go to my doctor. My doctor says, man, you're really healthy. I got, blood work done. I got all this stuff done the other day. And they're like, you're really, really healthy. But man, you push it too hard. You guys probably know this. I work all day. And he was like, you need to take a day off. And so when I was talking to him and I was like, but I did take a day off. I was like, this weekend I went snowboarding and then I went and Super Bowl partied. And he's like, that's not a day off. It's like, just because you're not doing work, you're still doing strenuous physical activity and straining yourself to the point of dehydration. And I was like, that's a good point. So yesterday I basically napped, had soup, and I watched like House or something. Had to do it. I hate doing it though. I really, really do. I get like anxiety. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Good work, Project Veritas, man. I'm a big fan. James O'Keefe, incredible work. And the entire team at Veritas, everybody working there, you guys are incredible. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.